All right. YouTube should be live. Let's take a peek. Yep, YouTube is live. Instagram is now live. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Medication Live. I am your host, Medication. Here we go. All right. We're going to do a little Nick Fuentes after we look at some of the recent news. We're going to dive into Nick Fuentes. Let's do this.
Governor of Illinois, Pritsker, just had a disastrous interview on Fox News. It's just utter disgrace, gaslighting, and peak delusion. And so we're going to react to that. And also, Stephen A. Smith has stepped into some mess. He blames President Trump for the NBA's illegal sports betting problem. I know it sounds crazy as I say it. However, let's start with the first question that was delivered to the governor about Chicago's murder rate. Take a look.
Why does Chicago have the highest murder rate of all the big cities?
Well, we are not in the top 30 in terms of our murder rate. Indeed,
well,
our murder rate it has been cut in half over the last 4 years.
Benjamin, what's up, baby? How you doing, man? Good to have you. Welcome to the stream. We just got started. If you guys are joining on Instagram, feel free to jump on YouTube, where we are having a more active live chat. All right, here we go. State Line, what's up, man? How you doing,
and
bro?
Every year it's gone down by double digits. And if you look at all of the violent crime over the last 4 years,
here's a map.
They've all gone down.
U.S. cities,
17.47
per 100,000 population. Chicago is number one over Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York, and San Diego.
What I'm explaining to you is when you want to fight crime, look, you can pull statistics up.
Let's go back and see what he says here, because this is a crazy interview. Hold on. Ready, set, go.
Well, we are not in the top 30 in terms of our murder rate. Indeed, our murder rate it has been cut in half over the last 4 years, and every year it's gone down by double digits. And if you look at all of the violent crime over the last 4 years,
here's a map.
They've all gone down.
U.S. cities, 17.47 per 100,000 population. Chicago is number one over Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York, and San Diego.
What I'm explaining to you is when you want to fight crime, look, you can pull statistics up. I can
these are
too.
murders.
I'm explaining to you that our murder rate has been cut in half. And very importantly, Brett, and you got to hear this, very importantly, we've been doing the things that are necessary to bring crime down, right? We've invested in community violence interruption. We've invested in police.
Number one, he wasn't even listening to the question from Brett Baer, because Brett is just focused on homicides. He's not talking about all the other crimes. So that's number one. Number two, if you guys see here on the screen, I'm going to show you two different sources that proves the point here. When you're looking at the list of just homicides, the city that comes in number one for the total number of homicides is Chicago. But Chicago does have 2.6 million people who live there. At the end of the day, no matter which way you slice it, Chicago's still top 10 in homicide rates. And that is a shame. Let's go to source number two, usafacts.org. And according to USA Facts, it says Cook County, Illinois, home to Chicago and its metropolitan area, had 805 homicides in 2023, the most in the nation. The second highest was Los Angeles. So at the end of the day, they have a homicide problem. Why can't you just admit that?
Well, you have this effort to track ICE. The Illinois Accountability Commission announced today to create this public record of federal law enforcement agents, determines how to collect testimony, hold hearings, interview individuals, record what could be used to pursue justice and accountability on them, right?
Yes.
So what do you say to the people who look at that and say, you know, ICE is taking bad guys off the streets of Chicago?
Listen. It's great. Go get Tren de Aragua. That's not what happened. Remember, they attacked a building with 130 people in it, and they got a couple of gang members. That's what you ought to do, by the way. Go after them, not the 130 people. Instead, they took everybody out of the building. They zip-tied the kids. They took some of the seniors and put them into U-Hauls for hours. And many of them U.S. citizens, legally in this country, others. And they instead detained, I mean, literally dozens and dozens of people for hours. That is not the way you do law enforcement.
Well, if he knew about how law enforcement should be done, then he would be handing over the TDA gang members to ICE when they were arrested in his state. He'd happily be handing over the criminals, but because he refuses to do so, just like all the other sanctuary states and cities, It forces ICE to do what? Go into the neighborhoods and get these criminals.
He should be deported.
Take a look.
But do you believe any illegal immigrant charged with or convicted of a felony should be deported?
I think they ought to take the violent criminals and get them out of my state and get them out of the country. I absolutely believe that, but that's not what they're doing. They said they were going after the worst.
You don't help them because you're a sanctuary state, right?
No, we do. If you bring us a judicial warrant, we will bring you all kinds of help on the ground to go get the bad guys. That's what we want. We want the bad guys off the streets. What we don't want is for people to get racially profiled. That's what's happening right now.
And that right there is your stunning admission, ladies and gentlemen. He said that ICE has to bring them a judicial warrant. It doesn't matter if the person is arrested by Chicago PD, especially if they know he murdered someone or raped someone or robbed someone. That doesn't matter. ICE needs a judicial warrant if they're going to take this person out of Chicago. And even then, it's not possible to happen or likely to happen because ICE is not allowed inside of the jails. So how are they going to pick these people up exactly?
Yeah.
But according joke.
Earlier this year, Chicago police charged 2 illegal aliens with felony murder in the killing of a 63-year-old man who was found tied up in his home. They were from
We should be back. Are we back? Yeah, looks like we're back. All right, cool.
trying to lure children, but was released into the community with ICE's detainer request ignored due to sanctuary policy. Like, when somebody looks at that and says, that can't be a good thing.
Brett, every person that gets held, every person that for probable cause, with due process, every person has a trial or has a...
Let's go back and see what Brett was saying here. Hold on.
Released into the community in his home. Chicago police charged 2 illegal aliens with felony murder in the killing of a 63-year-old man who was found tied up in his home. They were from Ecuador and Venezuela. Both were caught and released at the Texas border by the Biden administration in 2023. One of the suspects was in custody, had been arrested in Chicago on January 12th for trying to lure children, but was released into the community with ICE's detainer request ignored due to sanctuary policy. Like, when somebody looks at that and says, That can't be a good thing.
Brett, every person that gets held, every person that for probable cause, with due process, every person has a trial or has a hearing, and it gets determined whether or not they should be held in a jail cell or whether they get bail, right? Those things have happened all over the country. And I can tell you, at least in Chicago and in Illinois, when someone is determined to be a danger to the community, they are held. That's how it works. Now, did a judge make a bad decision? Maybe so, but to pick out the situation of who also get out and then they do something.
Are we back? We're back. All right. There we go. Holy cow, guys. We're back. Wow, dude. What's going on with that? I just did a full restart, man. So here we go.
Oh, that's a good question. I think, look, one thing I can say is that I asked President Biden
That.
Two more things. What's the best thing that President Trump has done since being in office?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, look, one thing I can say is that I asked President Biden and wrote a very public letter to deal with some of the problems at the border. We were seeing, tens of thousands of people being sent by Governor Abbott to Chicago, and we weren't getting any help really from the federal government. Here's what I would say. Since President Trump has taken office, we don't have the problem that existed before with people coming across the border.
Well, number one, at least he was able to admit the truth about the border. I mean, you can't argue that, but Democrats still try to. That's the first thing.
I want to see that full interview, bro. I'm sorry, Devorio. I got to see that whole full, because what the hell was that, bro? I don't want just that. Pritsker and let's see here, bro. Let's see here, bro. Where are we at?
Across, we're having to
Very weak governor. Let me be nice.
be responsible for checking that across the board. President Trump and the federal government have dodged accountability and dismantled the institutions responsible for checking that corruption and overreach that they're committing.
I have this guy Pritsker is a very weak governor. Let me be nice. I'm going to be very nice. He's extremely weak. He's pathetic. I have Pritsker get up and say how great they're doing in Chicago. They're doing very poorly.
All right, let's talk about crime, immigration, politics with Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritsker. Governor, thanks for being here.
Great to be here,
Any
Brett.
reaction to President Trump there? That was just an hour ago.
It seems like I live, rent-free in his head. He talks about me all the time, just spontaneously. And all I can say is that we're having to deal with the invasion of his ICE agents, his CBP agents, and potentially of federalized National Guard who don't know anything about law enforcement. We could use help. By the way, I'd love to get help with law enforcement. FBI, ATF, DEA. We want to get gangs and guns and drugs off the streets. And we've asked for that kind of help. But instead, he's talking about sending troops. Why? Why?
Well, you have this effort to track ICE. The Illinois Accountability Commission announced today to create this public record of federal law enforcement agents, determines how to collect testimony, hold hearings, interview individuals, record what could be used to pursue justice and accountability on them, right?
Yes.
So what do you say to the people who look at that and say, ICE is taking bad guys off the streets of Chicago?
Listen, it's great. Go get Tren de Aragua. That's not what happened. Remember, they attacked a building with 130 people in it, and they got a couple of gang members. That's what you ought to do, by the way. Go after them, not the 130 people. Instead, they took everybody out of the building. They zip-tied the kids. They took some of the seniors and put them into U-Hauls for hours. And many of them U.S. citizens, legally in this country, others. And they instead detained, literally dozens and dozens of people for hours. That is not the way you do law enforcement.
But do you believe any illegal immigrant charged with or convicted of a felony should be deported?
I think they ought to take the violent criminals and get them out of my state and get them out of the country. I absolutely believe that, but that's not what they're doing. They said they were going after the worst.
You don't help them because you're a sanctuary state, right?
No, we do. If you bring us a judicial warrant, we will bring you all kinds of help on the ground to go get the bad guys. That's what we want. We want the bad guys off the streets. What we don't want is for people to get racially profiled. That's what's happening right now.
Earlier this year, Chicago police charged 2 illegal aliens with felony murder in the killing of a 63-year-old man who was found tied up in his home. They were from Ecuador and Venezuela. Both were caught and released at the Texas border by the Biden administration in 2023. One of the suspects was in custody, had been arrested in Chicago on January 12th for trying to lure children, but was released into the community with ICE's detainer request ignored due to sanctuary policy. Like, when somebody looks at that and says, that can't be a good thing.
Brett, every person that gets held, every person that for probable cause, with due process, every person has a trial or has a hearing, and it gets determined whether or not they should be held in a jail cell or whether they get bail, right? Those things have happened all over the country. And
He just basically said nothing right there.
I can tell you, at least in Chicago and in Illinois, when someone is determined to be a danger to the community, they are held. That's how it works. Now, did a judge make a bad decision? Maybe so. But to pick out the situation of one immigrant, I bet you could find U.S. citizens all across the country who committed a crime who also get out and then they do something bad.
You were in an interview and you called ICE agents and looking like they're acting like Nazis after the Holocaust. Take a listen.
What I'm saying is that this is how authoritarian regimes do it. They create these kind of fake ideas that there's an enemy out there and it could be sitting next to you at one of these tables.
This kind of language, fascism, Nazism, it's permission. We went to war to destroy the Nazis, to overcome fascism. It's permission. It's a slippery slope to violence, and it's unacceptable. And it's pervasive on the left. We saw that pre-Charlie Kirk. We saw it post-Charlie Kirk's terrible assassination, and it needs to stop, and the Democrats are guilty of not standing up against it.
What's up, Linda? Good to have you
How do
back.
you respond to Senator McCormick?
What I can tell you is that Alberto Pinochet was an authoritarian. There are lots of authoritarians that I could point to. It happens that I know best because I helped build a Holocaust museum sitting next to Holocaust survivors about what the Nazis did in those early years.
No, I understand that.
I'm not
but
talking
you're
about the
comparing to
Holocaust. I'm
ICE
talking about
agents.
what they were doing, taking away people's rights, arresting people, asking them for papers. Early on in an authoritarian regime, wherever it is in the world throughout history, this is what happens. It's the beginning of something very bad for a country, especially a constitutional republic.
To his point, in this environment, you're demonizing ICE agents. If some ICE agent gets killed, and we just saw an assassination attempt down in Dallas, isn't that not something that we should be really talking about like that?
The thing that we're demonizing is when ICE agents aren't following protocols. They aren't acting like law enforcement should act. They're instead literally racially profiling. We've seen it. All you have to do is go online and look at some of the videos. Just to be clear, because I think many people that are listening maybe haven't seen that
You don't
before.
think you're painting with a broad brush of all the ICE agents that are doing their job?
No, we're saying that if you're an ICE agent and you do these things, we think you ought to be held accountable. And yet no one in Washington, no one above them, no supervisor, no inspector general is holding anybody accountable. There literally haven't been any suspensions or firings for the terrible things that they've done, literally grabbing people, tackling them when they're U.S. citizens and have done zero
You've
wrong.
referred to ICE as Kristi Noem's thugs. Would you be willing to do a ride-along with ICE in Chicago to get a better understanding about what they do and what they deal with?
I can see what they do on the streets of Chicago. And
Are there any ICE agents that are good? Any ICE agents that are good?
Of course. The problem is who's holding the bad ones accountable? Because the bad ones, frankly, are the ones that we're seeing all the time. And then you have Bovino on Fox News saying, oh, they're very professional. They're doing everything by the book.
Why does Chicago have the highest murder rate of all the big cities?
This is what we want to know, bro. The murder rate, and what is he going to do about it? What does he have to say about this?
Well, we are.
And he just totally went around the whole ICE thing and releasing releasing violent offenders into the public. And he just said, "Oh, well, you're just picking one scenario, and one judge made one bad decision." It's like, dude, you have the highest murder rate in the country. You're doing nothing to help it, man.
We are not in the top 30 in terms of our murder rate.
Like, instead of helping it, you're running around pointing fingers at your law enforcement, ICE, and other law enforcement.
Our murder rate.
And you're not letting law enforcement help anybody. You're not helping anything in any way. And if anything, you're turning your own citizens against everyone.
It has been cut in half over the last 4 years, and every year it's gone down by double digits. And if you look at all of the violent crime over the last 4 years,
here's a map.
They've all gone down.
U.S. cities, 17.47 per 100,000 population. Chicago is number 1 over Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York, and San Diego.
What I'm explaining to you,
dude, state lines from Illinois, dude.
Now you're talking about violent crime.
Look, you can pull statistics up.
No, these are murders.
I'm explaining to you that our murder rate has been cut in half. And very importantly, Brett, and you got to hear this, very importantly, we've been doing the things that are necessary to bring crime down, right? We've invested in community violence interruption. We've invested.
No, you haven't.
In police. I've added more state police than any governor in quite a long time. It's very important that we do both of those things and more to invest.
Probably because you're the one that did not have enough compared to the whole nation. You needed way more
in our communities so that we bring crime down. We're doing that. You know who's doing the opposite? Donald Trump. That's not what we need.
If you hear from your constituents, your residents, and they say, ask for help. If help is being offered, ask for help.
I have. And I do. And I regularly say, you've heard me, anybody that's listened to me has heard me say, and I believe this is absolutely necessary. Bring us FBI. We want to go after the gang members. Bring us DEA. We'd like to get more drugs off the streets. Fentanyl is killing too many people in Illinois. I want to point out, by the way, in the state of Illinois, we are 19th safest. I'd like to be number 1 or number 2 safest. 19th safest, not 50th, not 45th, 19th. We're doing a good job of addressing crime and bringing it down steadily, doing the job but it's not going to get brought down by bringing soldiers onto the streets of American cities.
I want to talk some politics. We talked about the environment and how people are talking. Should the Virginia Attorney General nominee, Jay Jones, drop out of the race over those texts that have been the focus of this race?
Yeah, I think that the text that I think everybody points to, he's apologized about that. People make mistakes. They do.
So he shouldn't drop out.
It's one thing if someone's doing it repeatedly, right? If you're making comments repeatedly that are, like that.
Pablo, what's up, buddy? Pablo says in the chat, he says it's 56. What does that mean?
No doubt, that was an offensive thing to write.
You've donated $20,000 to Jay Jones' campaign.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, that was before anybody saw the text, but it doesn't matter. The point is, if he wasn't apologizing about it, if he didn't feel bad, and if he hadn't stood up and said, this is not how I really feel, I think everybody says, things along the way, particularly in politics, when you're getting attacked, that you probably shouldn't have said.
Has the Democratic Party become too extreme? Do you think that the focus of your party is on the far left? Have you endorsed Zohran Mamdani in New York, for example?
The focus of our party is not on the far left. The focus on our party is standing up for Americans' constitutional rights. That's what I believe. That's what most Democrats believe. I believe that Zohran Mamdani won his election because he talked about one very vital issue to the American public, and that's affordability. And that's what we all ought to be talking about. But unfortunately, Donald Trump every day is attacking our American cities. We've got to stand up for
affordability is what Donald Trump ran on, and that's what he's been working on. And that's what none of you Sanctuary City and none of you Democrat governors want to help with. All you want to do is help illegals and criminals, violent criminals, and not help in any way with bringing the price of anything down.
democracy.
If anything, you guys keep bringing the prices of everything up. It's because of you guys that we have to make a huge push to bring it back down. Now you want to be part of the solution?
But we've also got to, talk about, and I have done this, eliminating the grocery tax in the state of Illinois, making sure we're bringing down taxes for small businesses. So these are all things that I think really matter to folks at the kitchen table every single day.
You say standing up for
pure bullshit.
Democracy. Here's what you told Stephen A. Smith.
So you're saying that the president of the United States is going to try to steal an election? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, this is a guy who tried to steal the election back in 2020, and he would do it again. Yeah, I think he's proven that he's willing to do that.
There are many Democrats who pointed to Donald Trump before the 24 election saying he was...
What's up, Lex? What's up, Bussin? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing.
Challenging the integrity of the election by saying almost exactly what you're saying about him now. Why do you think he's going to steal the election?
What I'm telling you is you can just look back in his own history, that back to 2020, after the election, when he claimed fraud, he claimed it had been stolen from him. And he and Michael Flynn discussed, and Michael Flynn very publicly talked about, maybe we should use troops and go in and seize the ballot boxes and count the votes. You don't think Donald Trump heard that and thought maybe that's a good idea? And here we are. He's sending troops onto the streets of American cities, into blue states in blue cities, and he wants to.
Yeah, because as you just saw on right in front of you, the evidence was just put in front of you. You have the highest murder rate in the whole country.
He's calling it.
And your fat ass is doing nothing about it.
About crime,
and you don't
but
think
that's
by
not at all
saying
what it's
this
about.
now that you are somehow challenging the integrity of the next election?
No, he is challenging the integrity of the
He
next
hasn't said
election,
anything.
but yes, he is challenging the integrity of the next election by sending troops into our cities.
Did you hear what he just said? He's challenging the integrity of the next election by sending troops into our cities. How did these guys just run their mouth and say whatever they want, and their side of politics, their side believes it all? They just say whatever they want. Some of the dumbest shit you ever hear comes out of their mouths, and you're like, what did you just say?
That's what I believe this is about. It isn't about fighting crime. He said he's going after the worst of the worst. That is not what they're doing. They are literally going after black and brown people because of the color of their skin.
The worst of the worst. If ICE is getting the worst of the worst off the streets, is that a good thing?
Yes, anybody that they get that is worst of the worst is a good thing, of course. But you remember, they're bragging about the fact that, 60% of the people that they're stopping have done something wrong. 40% are being held, detained. These are U.S. citizens, people legally in this country.
The economy, Illinois, property tax, most recent was 23, but it's highest in the U.S. Gas tax, second highest. Corporate tax, third highest. Sales tax is down to 13. Do businesses want to stay in Illinois, and do you think that the Illinois economy is doing well?
Let me say this. When I took office from a Republican governor, everything was going the wrong direction, exactly what you're talking about, right? So when I took office, we had to address all of these things. So we're moving in the right direction, and indeed, we've attracted more businesses to the state of Illinois. We have more people employed in the state of Illinois than ever before. Things are going the right direction. I can't solve all the problems at once, that's for sure. I can tell you that with regard to property taxes, the biggest problem is most of your property tax bill comes from paying for schools.
Two more things. What's the best thing that President Trump has done since being in office?
Well, that's a good question. I think, look, one thing I can say is that I asked President Biden and wrote a very public letter to deal with some of the problems at the border. We were seeing, tens of thousands of people being sent by Governor Abbott to Chicago.
W. Benjamin, bro. Benjamin says, Lex, first of all, Lex in the chat said, let's start with James Henry. He says, socialism through taxation. Then Lex says, here we go. It's someone else's fault. Benjamin, what a dumbass. Throw blame to everyone else. That's what Democrats do best. Look at Kamala's book she just wrote. Blame everyone else but themselves. They point their fingers at everyone else except at themselves. They point everywhere else. It's everyone else's fault but their own. And since the election, as I said, man, they continue to do the dumb ass shit that lost them the election big time, and they still haven't changed their tune. And they think they're going to win an election? Come on now. Come on, bro. Look at this guy. You could do wonders if you just say, you know what, bro, the murder rate in my cities, in my state are the highest in the nation. You know what? Let me just do this weird, wacky thing called working with the president of the United States and bring crime down. You know how many W's you would get? You know how many people would be like, damn, all right. All right, cool. You know, on both sides, these guys are incapable. They're incapable of that.
And we weren't getting any help really from the federal government. Here's what I would say. Since President Trump has taken office, we don't have the problem that existed before with people coming across the border. What I would suggest, though, is there's one more thing he could have done. He took control of the Congress. He's got control of the judiciary. He's got control of the White House. He could
argue that the judiciary pushes back all the time, but go ahead.
The Supreme Court.
WJ Cricket, bro, he says they can't, in the chat, he says they can't break their party religion. They're the ones in a cult. They can't break it. Even though they point at the right and say the right is in a cult, they're the ones in a cult. They have to follow suit with their leaders or else. It's not like the right where we're accepting and open-minded and willing and willing to take someone from the other side of the aisle. Look at Tulsi Gabbard. Look at RFK Jr. They were Democrats. They dared to say or disagree in some little way, and the Democrats kicked them to the curb, and the people on the right picked them up. Because it's not about the color of your skin. It's not about your race. It's not about whether, you agree on every single point or not. It's whether, hey, are you right for the job? Are you right? Are you right for the plan? Then let's go. You know what I'm saying? These Dems, they're in a freaking cult. If you don't go exactly as planned, dude, Pritsker you're right. He'd be done. The elites of the Democratic Party would destroy these guys if they slip a little bit. They have to go with the program. The Soros program. The Barack Obama program.
Let's just say this. He could have proposed comprehensive immigration reform and gotten it passed. He could have done that. He hasn't done that. Why? Why does he want to send troops in? Why does he want to send ICE and CBP in?
Bro, you guys will vote against every single thing they will propose. 100% of the time. It's already proven. Look at the shutdown. You can't even vote to a continuing CR to continue just with that, what the government was before until you figure out this new bill. They couldn't even do that. Right now, there's something in there that they propose a bill. They propose a continuation of the government just to keep it open. Democrats haven't signed it. They can't. They're incapable, bro. The capacity is not there.
Why not get immigration reform in place that we can all rally around? Look, I like.
Random in the chat says, I could list off a bunch of things that I disagree that Trump does. Starting with the ballroom, it's called, it's a lot of things we disagree with ourselves all the time. I disagree with Random. He disagrees with me. We agree and disagree on lots of things. I disagree with a lot of stuff that Trump does. Doesn't mean I'm going to dump him. I'm still Trump, baby. He's still the great white hope.
The great white hope.
Like that we have borders.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
If we need borders, right? You don't have a country if you don't have borders. But
don't be a beta. Don't be a beta.
Beta male.
That's what you're looking at on your screen up there. A beta male.
Beta male.
He is a Trump hater and a beta male.
You are a Trump hater and you're a beta male.
Let's deal with immigration with an actual bill that Democrats and Republicans can rally around. We've seen it before. It's been done before, but it's been 40 years. Let's finally do it.
Are you considering running for president?
I'm running for re-election as governor. I appreciate the question. I'm always flattered by that question. But honestly, I love the state of Illinois. I'm going to do whatever's best for the state of Illinois.
Last thing. The dealer has a 2. You have a 16.
That's the debate everywhere. No, I mean,
Were you proud or embarrassed of announcing 1.4 million of gambling?
Oh, neither one. It was just I did what anybody would do if you're telling the truth, right? You pay your taxes. I got really lucky. That's what happened. It's like somebody who won the lottery. You get really lucky. You're going to pay your taxes on it.
Governor, we appreciate you coming by and taking tough questions and answering them. We'd like to have you back.
Thank you. Good to see you, Brett.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page.
Dude, what the hell was that all about? What is going on, you guys? Holy cow. You guys ready for some Nick Fuentes? Let's see what he's got to say.
What's radical is you have Austin, and whatever the intramural debates are that happen on the right and the narcissism of small differences and things like that, it goes out the window when we start getting shot by...
Oh, hang on a second. Crystal Cole says, you are so ass backwards. You are deluded, twisted, and need to wake the F up. You just talk shit and said a bunch of words, but you didn't actually explain anything. Didn't explain anything.
BLM, transgender communist, and whether Tyler Robinson pulled the trigger or not, that exists. That exists because they celebrated it. So people say, well, maybe Tyler Robinson is the patsy. Maybe that's the case, but you still have transgenders shooting up Catholic churches and schools. You still have Antifa, you still have BLM, and you still had tens of thousands of people celebrating and mocking Charlie Kirk when he died because they thought he's a Nazi. So that's real. And that is how we would define our tribe and then engage in politics. Shapiro is not the same.
This is probably the third video I've ever seen of Nick Fuentes, give or take. I'm probably third or fourth. I still don't know how I feel about Nick Fuentes, but a lot of what he said, I understand where he's going with it. You know what I mean? I get it. He's a little bit, he's very controversial. Some of the things he says, I know, they're controversial, but I'm a grown man. I can handle words, you know? But I still have yet to understand more. I want to learn more, so here we go.
Same way. Shapiro is Jewish. And insofar as the Jewish religion, the Orthodox Jewish religion is traditional in some sense, maybe he has some commonality. But Shapiro doesn't care if America gets diverse. He said it himself. He says, I don't give a damn about the browning of America. He said, if white people are complaining that there's no jobs, it's because you're a loser. He said, you're not promised anything. You're entitled to nothing, goy. He says, the only thing you're promised, this is a quote, is the adventure of a lifetime. So I don't care if your ancestors have been buried in the same cemetery for 6 generations. You need to uproot and move to an oil field in North Dakota. You need to uproot and go work and do fracking somewhere else. And if you have a problem with that, well, you're just a loser, ingrate white person who needs to be replaced by better, more American Indians and Chinese that actually want to work hard. Like, that's Shapiro's ideology. Shapiro's not a Christian. Shapiro doesn't believe in Jesus Christ. This guy's not on our side. And insofar as Shapiro's in favor of Israel's domination of America, he sets himself against the American sovereignty, America first, American independence movement, and feels threatened by it. So Shapiro said, yeah, Matt Walsh might be getting shot at by leftists. I'm getting shot at by everybody because I support Israel. And doesn't that say it all? Does that not say it all? Walsh lives in Tennessee, where the Daily Wire headquarters is. You know where Shapiro lives? Do you think he lives in Tennessee, where all the Daily Wire studios are, with Walsh and Knowles, and where Candace Owens used to live?
I think Shapiro's in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Ben Shapiro lives in Boca Raton in South Florida because that's where all the Jews are. Isn't that weird?
I once bought a really nice watch from a jeweler in Boca Raton. A nice brigade.
Don't you think that's a... And by the way, when this debate happened, Shapiro wasn't even there. He was in Israel.
Bro.
So over here in America, in Tennessee, in Wisconsin, in Utah, white
good night, Dominique. We'll catch you on the next one.
Americans are getting shot at by communists. And communists are celebrating. These left-wing trash are celebrating because they think if you want America to be white and proud and Christian, you're a Nazi. And they're shooting at us.
I'm curious, State Line, how you feel about what you think about what he's saying about the truth of a lot of this. But we can talk later or now.
While this is going down, Shapiro's in Israel, flying on private jets with security that probably costs millions of dollars a year to protect him, because we all know he supports Israel over the United States. Is this clocking to Matt Walsh? Is it clicking when he's in the Zoom call getting berated and lectured by Shapiro? And here's really what it comes down to. Let's just say it this way. Shapiro is right in the sense that this group chat does reflect the radicalization of the youth. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. Because the political correctness, the narrative control surrounding Hitler, which was created and propped up by the ADL and SPLC, the HR sensitivity training, the anti-racist stuff, all of that is a mind virus to make white people guilty and surrender our country. I'm not a hateful, cruel person. I don't want a genocide. But America is supposed to mean something. When we think of what an American is, we're supposed to think of something particular and definite and discrete. And by discrete, I mean tangible and whole. And so if young white men don't care about those speech codes, if they're embracing American identity, if they're becoming radically right-wing and they don't care about the thought policing and the white guilt and the victim narratives of the left, that's a good thing. And if they do not treat those sacred cows of the left with the kind of sanctity that they're expected to, that's a good thing. It's good that the youth is getting radicalized. It's good that they're irreverent. It's good that they're extremely traditionally Christian. It's good that they're pro-white. It's good that they're nativistic and patriarchal.
I mean, you should also ask yourself, why do these people think like this? Because always...
And Matt Walsh knows that, and J.D. Vance knows that, and you know that, and I know that. Because these radical young white youth are going to grow up and they're going to fight for America. They're going to fight against all this feminist, liberal, diversity bullshit. But that comes with something else too, because if you're Christian, you're not Jewish. If you're America first, you're not Israel first. If you're America first, you're against all their wars, their foreign aid. If you believe America has an identity, guess what America's identity is not? Ethnically or religiously Jewish. It's racially white, it's religiously Christian. And so the more radical that the young white men become, the more their conception of American identity hardens, it forces the contradiction to the fore, which is that the more American you get, the less you can really tolerate this Judeo-Christian myth. The less you could tolerate this melting pot myth, the less you could tolerate this pro-Israel lobby, the less you could tolerate Jewish billionaires like Larry and David Ellison that are buying the media to make us support another country. That comes with it too. It's unavoidable, and it's inextricably connected. It's part of that. And obviously Shapiro sees this as a bad thing. Because Shapiro, as long as he's a pro-Israel Jew, has to be kind of a liberal. If America is for everybody, then it could be for him too. If America is a colorblind meritocracy and anyone can set up shop and become super powerful, then so can he. But if America's prioritizing our heritage, our people, our identity, our independence, well, then he is lumped in with the other outsiders. He doesn't like that. And so, you know, that's really the dividing line, is that, yes, it is true, the conversation's changing, the youth are waking up, that's good. And by the way, when I say people should not be afraid by radicalization, what's radical is what's happening now. What's radical is you have Austin Metcalf getting stabbed in the neck with a knife, and black people raise $500,000 for his killer. That's radical. It's radical that Charlie Kirk is shot in the neck, and one of the big late night shows blames it on his own side and just lies about it completely recklessly. Like it's radical to bring in 10 million illegal aliens and say anyone can be American, but it's not our country. It was never our country. Like,
some of this stuff I agree with. No. Some of this stuff I agree with.
Reparations, that's radical. That's bullshit.
Spot on.
Calf getting stabbed in the neck, our heritage, our people.
I want to hear this again.
Our identity, our independence. Well, then he is lumped in with the other outsiders. He doesn't like that. And so, you know, that's really the dividing line, is that, yes, it is true. The conversation's changing. The youth are waking up. That's good. And by the way, when I say people should not be afraid by radicalization, what's radical is what's happening now. What's radical is you have Austin Metcalf getting stabbed in the neck with a knife, and black people raise $500,000 for his killer. That's radical. It's radical that Charlie Kirk is shot in the neck, and one of the big late night shows blames it on his own side and just lies about it completely recklessly. Like it's radical to bring in 10 million illegal aliens and say anyone can be American, but it's not our country. It was never our country. Like, reparations, that's radical. That's bullshit.
Spot on. And me as a something wrong with you. And if you're a wokey who said happened, man.
So we need a hard, far, edgy, radical right wing that says, this has all gone too far. It's time to shut all this stuff down. Not in a sick, cruel, sicko way, but it's time to restore America, make America great again. And Shapiro will never be comfortable with what is required to do that. So I saw Matt Walsh receiving the lecture and looked visibly uncomfortable. Like I said, blinking like 1,000 times. You could read it on his face how uncomfortable he is. And you got to wonder, bro, what is going through your head when you hear this stuff? You know this is nonsense. When Shapiro, like, think about it. Think about where we're at. Charlie Kirk got shot in the face for being a Nazi. And Shapiro, your boss, is concern trolling about a group chat. Whose side is he on? You know, like, people are getting stabbed and shot, and we're on the verge of a civil war. And Shapiro is saying, well, hold on now. Who says we can't cancel these young kids for making racist jokes in a group chat? Hey, man, read the room. F you. They should have their lives ruined. So what are you thinking, Walsh? Whose side are you on? Your fellow Catholics, your fellow whites, your fellow Americans? Are you on the side of your boss, who's in Israel right now for the signing of this peace deal? Whose side are you on? And I say this about Shapiro. The reason why I think this is like a breaking point is they just have no give. This would have been an opportunity, by the way, for Shapiro to actually engender some goodwill among people that would be skeptical. Think about what I'm saying here. I'm not saying that there's no accommodation for anyone that's Jewish or pro-Israel. I recognize there's a lot of Jews in the country, and on some level, you know, they're not going anywhere, okay? So we're not looking to eliminate them or anything like that. And it's, if Shapiro was even thinking strategically for his own benefit, this would have been the opportunity to actually create some goodwill. How? These young kids, they're making jokes. They're young Republicans. You think they hate jokes? They're making jokes. This would be an opportunity for Shapiro to say, you know what? They're just kids. They're making jokes. And I think a lot of people might have said, this would be for Shapiro's benefit. A lot of people would have said, you know, I don't like Shapiro, but good on him for defending these people. Good on him for being consistent and not clutching his pearls. And good on him for reading that actually would have been the more tactful play. But it's like I've been saying, these people, it's not in their vocabulary. They have no charity, no give, no good faith, no goodwill, not an ounce. It's not there. And so we're obviously in the situation where the under 25 crowd, like they're over Israel and they're over being told what to do and what's okay by the Jews. And the Jews recognize they got a problem. And instead of the humility, which would be required to say, we need to win these people back. We need to understand where they're coming from and meet them where they are. We want to earn their affection back. I don't know, how about by understanding them? How about by being charitable towards them? Building rapport? They hate us too much. So Shapiro, with his giant eyebrows and his evil visage, his goblin-like visage, is going to get on the show and say, who's to say we can't cancel? Yeah, they didn't even apologize for what they said. Wait, they didn't even apologize for other Holocaust jokes. And we're already forgiving them? Not so fast. If someone's going to kill me, it's going to be one of these right-wing guys. They're not capable of letting it go.
And this just shows you why people like Ben.
And now people are, I'm sure Matt Walsh is thinking, what are you talking about? What are you doing? They just keep doubling down, summoning Shapiro, Levin, Josh Hammer, Laura Loomer, these psycho freaks. And don't for one second kid yourself and think that we are the haters. They are the haters. They are the racists. They are the intolerant ones. They are the control freaks that want to tell us what we could say and who we can vote for and how much money we can give to Israel every year.
All right. Let's go to some more Nick Fuentes. I want to learn more about this guy. I want to see who he is. Nick Fuentes.
And there is this almost like, and I think has been for my entire lifetime, maybe before that probably, that there's almost this unspoken cultural value that clearly is a left-wing value that puts at the, we know like bad things happened to minorities in this country in the past. And so we're not going to say, like some of the things that we obviously know. And we'll even allow you to say 1983. Which, to me does not feel like that long ago. I still feel like you, man, except my knees. My knees really don't feel like you. But, so I was born in 1983. This is 20 years, less than 20 years, 19 years after the Civil Rights Act, right? So it's like, it kind of does make sense in a way that perhaps there was like a different outlook only 20 years after the Civil Rights, and now it's 2025. Like, this is actually quite a bit further. This is 60 years after the Civil Rights Act now. And I do think that, like, in order to move forward, the only way to do this would be to declare, and man, I hate saying this word, but actual equality of some sense. Like,
James Henry says in the chat, he says, look at my post. Where did you put it? Did you put it in our Discord, bro? Where is it at?
Would actually have to be like, look, nobody's getting discriminated against under the law. Either nobody has a right to have a, their
People started out saying, how's that racist? I remember used to, like you said earlier,
there's like legitimate grievances there. I also think like welfare has done enormous damage.
I agree.
You kind of can't just blame all your problems on white people and racism. I mean, that actually is not really what's holding black people back in this country. And I think we have to be honest about that if we don't want things to go in an ugly direction.
Yeah, well, and I would say that a lot of what occurred under wokeism, I don't think it was all bad necessarily, because I think that, as I get older, I do recognize it's sort of funny. Like when I was a teenager, we were getting called racist for everything. Everything was racist, everything. And I feel like a lot of people started out saying, how's that racist? I remember used to, like you said earlier, if you called them black and not African American,
Right.
in like 2012, that was a problem, or colored instead of person of color, whatever. And he'd say, I don't hate anybody for their race. I feel like people have kind of gone full circle. And now 10 years later, people are like, they actually hate non-white people and go, yeah, I'm racist, so what? And I don't know, I feel like maybe that's a mistake in a sense. I mean, I've said I'm racist, but like actually genuinely harboring racial hatred is bad. I think it's good as a society we move past that. I think it's good as a society we move past a lot of prejudice. And I think I agree that the new consensus just needs to be, just like you said, that basic conception of fairness,
James Henry in the chat sent me this one. Let me see this here. See if it'll let me pull it up.
The White House has been on an absolute barn burner for the last 24 hours with presidential communications. I would argue is the single greatest run of presidential comms in the history of America. And let me explain myself. One, you have Donald Trump posting this meme where he's flying in an F-16 wearing a crown. It says King Trump on the side of the plane, and he dumps raw sewage on all of the No Kings protesters. In response to this, Harry Sisson, one of the guys who got poop dumped on him in the Trump meme, decided to post, hey, can anybody ask Trump why he posted an AI meme of me having poop dumped on my head? Why is Trump pooping on me? The response to this is J.D. Vance saying, I'll happily ask him for you, Harry. To which J.D. goes viral and then also follows up with this meme of Donald Trump as a king and Nancy Pelosi and all the libs bowing to him. And if you're not done yet, and the exact, all of the same news cycle, on the same day, Caroline Leavitt decides to whip out the Your Mom card. This is a real exchange from Caroline Leavitt with a Huffington Post left-wing reporter where she says, your mom. The reporter's like, why, who picked Budapest for a news summit with Vladimir Putin? And this is a big-time lib activist journalist. To which the response from the White House was, your mom picked it. And then when asked for clarification, the White House communications director, Stephen Chung, says, your mom. And that's it. This is the single golden timeline. This is the single greatest series of presidential communications to the press in history. You're living through it. It's just remarkable to see.
Damn, bro. I love that.
quality.
Hell
And
yeah.
it really
W. James, bro.
it comes down to
Hell yeah.
specificity with the language. Like everyone now talks about, are you racist? Are you not racist? I say, yeah, I'm a little racist. I think everyone's a little racist. Yeah, we're all a little prejudiced, and we all believe in stereotypes. And what does that even really mean? But do I believe in cruelty, hatred, violence? No. And I usually like to use those words because anyone who knows me, the number one racist, knows I'm not a cruel person. I'm not a hateful person. I'm not a violent person. Unless I'm put in a self-defense situation at my front door, let's say, because that is,
forgot about that.
Tends to happen, and I think that as a country, we could survive being racist. We can't survive like ontologically hating each other and not wanting the best for each other and wanting to kill and destroy each other. And that's why I think it's really important. It's like I said after that show, like we are going to need to fight. I do believe there is going to need to be like an intense political battle, and people are going to need to choose what side they're going to be on. And
I'll be honest, I like how he says that. Guys, let me know what your thoughts are, but I like how he says, we're all a little bit racist. He says, I am a little bit racist, but I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in, all this, that, and the other. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of like the forwardness of it.
what side I'm not on is the side where someone gets shot in the neck and you celebrate, or someone gets stabbed in the neck with a knife and you make excuses for it, or even in Gaza, people are being blown to smithereens and you say, give them hell, they deserve it, whatever. It's like, we need to find a way where, and I'm Christian, of course, but we need to take most of the right and some of the left even against the kind of nihilistic element on the far left, because I really believe they are the problem. I think they are driving a lot of the issues here.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of truth to that.
What do you guys think? What's your take on Nick Fuentes based on what we just heard?
And I do agree with you that there was something, you know, it was one of those examples that really pushes you up to the limit of like speech versus inciting violence. But like, there is something like dude, there was just a major political assassination. This is a dangerous moment for this country. And you're just making a video about how great it was. And I 100% agreed with your take. I think it was on Greenwald or Patrick Bet-David, one of those two shows, where you were just like, yeah, they should get fired from their job. And like, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. There is a level, and yes, you do have to you have to work out your own hierarchy of moral outrages or whatever. But again, it's sometimes these things are somewhat arbitrary. I shouldn't even say, I guess exactly where you draw the line feels kind of arbitrary, you know, in the same way, like we all know, like, okay, a 6-year-old can't drive a car, but a 25-year-old has to be able to, like, I don't know, there's somewhere you got to draw the line. And like, if a woman is getting fired for posting all lives matter, that's insane. But like, if you're getting fired for, it's like, I don't know. You know, I had a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, who made he got fired from his job because he made a video.
What's up, Aquariums? Welcome, bud. Good to have you.
Yo, singing.
W. Ada Ortega, I love President Trump because he is the Great White Hope.
The Great White Hope.
Kanye West's.
Brian Jar, the Warrior, says, "Are you black?" Depends on the time of night, bro. No, I'm not black.
Heil Hitler song. And I was like, well, yeah, dude, you know, like, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of employers are going to look at that and be like, yeah, dude, I can't have people doing that. And that's not nearly as bad as celebrating someone who just got murdered. By the way, I know you're friends with Kanye. Gotta say, dude, Kanye's album, College Dropout, spoke to my soul. It was the year I dropped out of college. He made this album, College Dropout. And I always loved, there's this one really beautiful song on there called Family Business. And I heard it earlier today. And man, it hits different after Cousins. The whole story is about his cousin. And I always thought it was such a nice song. But after Cousins, you're like, man, this one has a whole different tone to it. Anyway. All right, guys, let's take a moment and thank our sponsor for today. Kind of taken this line of like, it's profoundly.
And you could tell that it is like a rhetorical innovation because, let's be honest, this is an issue that people like Matt Walsh don't want to talk about because he works for Ben Shapiro and he knows, like Candace Owens, if you drift too far on that subject, you lose your job. And he likes having a job. So you get it. Now, this is an extremely contentious issue also, and it's very topical. It's in the news, and he knows the question's coming. Are you pro-Israel? Are you anti-Israel? There's people who feel very strongly about it. And you could tell.
You guys are talking about being black. You guys asked if someone's black. I answered I was being silly, but I think with this whole race thing and all that, like I said this on our live stream earlier this morning, we are all very, very minutely different genetically. We're almost exactly the same things. We're humans. We're all the same. There's like these little tiny, little baby, little differences that make some of our color of our skin different. Our eyes look different. Our hair is different. Our height is different. Our weight is different. Our teeth look different. Our face looks different. Minor little things, but we're all the same. Like, why are we talking about race, bro? Why do we have to have programs for, like, DEI programs for some races or some genders? It's such a joke, bro. The left needs to stop it with DEI. The left needs to stop it with affirmative action, which I think they finally did. But, I mean, it's over. Random's right. Some of us have giant peckers. You know, some of them are small or big. Dude, W. Ada Ortega, thank you for the live, for the super chat. Hell yeah. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting me. Dude, love you guys. Thank you. But dude, we're all the same thing, bro. We're literally the same thing. Stop acting like black people are not as good as you and you have to give them a program. Or, you know, some people are some women are not, or some genders are not as good as you. So you have to make sure there's X amount of genders and X amount of places. And let's make sure that we choose them because based on their gender. It's like, no, leave everyone alone, dude. We all bleed red. Thank you, Linda. Come on, man. It's all the same thing. Let it go. And it always goes back to the same thing. Do you want the NBA to be the black players in the NBA to be replaced by white players because there's too many black players and we don't have enough representation of the population of the white people in our country? Come on. Do you want to get rid of all the male plumbers and force women into plumbing when they don't want to do it? Women don't want to be in plumbing. Nobody is patriarchally holding back women from being plumbers, bro. Men are not doing some kind of patriarchy to hold women back from plumbing. They're not. There's nobody holding women back from plumbing. Why don't they do it? Because they don't want to do it. What do you want to do? Go force women to go into plumbing now? What are you guys trying to do with this stuff? Come on now.
What the?
Come on. Are you out of your cotton picking mind?
Are you out of your cotton picking mind?
Come on now. Satan is your daddy, woman.
Satan is your daddy, woman.
That was just for fun. All right, dude. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, this is like a rhetorical device. It's a cop-out where you can say, I'm not pro-Israel, but I'm not anti-Israel. I just don't care. And
Sam says, why do women get paid less? Is that a real question? You still don't know why women get paid less? Is that a real question, or you're actually like saying, how come women don't get paid less? Because that's an obvious one that's been explained a million times. Very obvious.
That really pissed me off because it seems like you're feigning ignorance. You're either lying or you're really ignorant. And
it says, then explain it. Because women don't want to do the jobs that men want to do. And women don't end up, if they want to do jobs that men want to do, they have to go up against men that have been doing this job for the beginning, since the beginning of time, and they don't want to do those jobs. And it's hard for them to succeed. It's really hard for men to succeed in lots of those high-paying jobs. Very hard. If I want to go to some CEO crazy whatever paying job or whatever it is that's going on, you know how hard it is for men? And then now think about the small percentage of women that actually want to go give up their lives and give up children, give up having families and give up all that stuff. And they want to go to those kind of jobs. Now there's a small percentage of women fighting for those jobs along with all of these other men. And it's hard for everyone, not just hard for women, hard for everyone to get jobs because you have to work hard for these kind of jobs. These are not jobs that are easy to get. Good paying jobs are not easy to get. And good paying jobs are not jobs that all women want to do. Most women don't want to give up their families and their children life and their family life to do the kind of jobs that make the money that these men are, these positions that men have that make that kind of money. They don't want to do those jobs. Women don't want to, they prefer not to do, they prefer not to be engineers. Women don't want to be engineers. Women don't want to be computer programmers. Women don't want to be AI engineers. Women don't want to be the top CEO in the world. Some do, but in relation to how many men do, percentage, they don't prefer that. It's been proven. It's not glass ceiling. It's not a glass ceiling. It's hard for everyone, and women don't prefer to do that. That's just how it goes. Linda I Am says it very well. Majority of women want to stay home, want with their children if they can, and not work 7 days a week, 14 to 18 hours a day. Women don't want to do that. Men are happy to do, or like, you know what? I have a family to take care of. This is what I'm supposed to do as a man, and this is what I want to do. I want to go out there and battle for more money. I want to go battle for what's mine. A lot of them don't. Now you have this whole thing of the weak males that don't want to do that. It's a very, very known thing. A lot of men nowadays that's why they're called betas. Beta. That's why I have these buttons on my soundboard. Listen.
Beta male. Man, be a alpha male, not a beta male.
Why do you think? Because now we have all these beta soy boy males. They're being taught to do, oh yeah, get more in touch with your feelings. And oh yeah, don't let people offend you and say words that can hurt your feelings. Oh, don't do that. Make sure nobody hurts your feelings, darling. Let me know when you go to school if someone hurts your feelings, because then I'm going to go and yell at them. Come on. We're raising a bunch of pussies, dude. And so it's become easier because of this for women to compete with men for higher paying jobs. So the figures have gotten better. Women now are more likely, or it's easier for them to get into higher paying jobs because there's a bunch of loser dudes that are being taught by feminists to be more in their feelings. But the funniest part of all this is the women don't actually want those jobs. They get them and they're like, dude, what happened to me? What happened? I was supposed to get married by some age. I was supposed to maybe get pregnant and have kids. Now, I don't know. Am I still fertile? Let me look down there. Can I still have kids? Wow. I'm 40 years old now. I wonder if I could still have kids. I was so worried about this career thing. It's like, no, dude. Women have a clicking time clock. They have a ticking time. Because Sam, I already said it. Women don't want to do the jobs. That's why they're paid less, because they don't want to do the jobs that men want to do, that men are willing to do. That's why. It's preference, straight preference. Straight preference. He says again, Sam is just in retard land. You aren't explaining what sex organs you have determined to pay. What sex organs you have determined to... No, it's not what sex organs you have determined to pay. It's what sex organs you have determines your preference for what you want to do with your life. That's the difference. And you may be too retarded to understand that, but that's okay. Linda, thank you so much for the super chat. $4.99, baby. Thank you so much. Hell yeah, dude. Thank you for supporting me, Linda. Hell yeah. Love you. W Linda, bro. Hell yeah. There you go. Yep.
Care about Israel. We happen to be supporting their war, and it's actually hurting us. And there's other things too. Obviously, it's a big subject. There's a lot of this stuff going on. And so people say, well, let them kill each other. If you've been paying attention, one side's doing a lot more killing. Yeah. We're paying for it. We are, on the hook for all of it. And, so when they say, well, all that stuff, we don't care about it, whatever, be that as it may, it is going on. And until it stops or changes, we can't stop talking about it. It's like you said, we don't want to be obsessed with it, but if you talk about it, you get canceled. We have to talk about getting canceled. We have to talk about the thing in itself. And when that changes...
to people like Sam, I would just say, stop worrying about this bullshit that your left party is throwing at you, saying, oh, look at the pay difference. Look at this difference. Look at the difference in the people with this color skin. Look at the difference with those people with those kinds of organs. Look at the difference with those people with those kinds of that are these kinds of genders. Instead of listening to your party forcing you look at the differences with people, work on yourself to get a better job, to move yourself up in life. Stop paying attention to all these rejects around you on all these CNNs and MSNBCs and the leaders of your Democratic Party and action that are telling you, look at the difference between this color race. Look at the difference between this color skin. Look at the people that have these organs. Look at the people that are this gender. Look at the difference with the people that came from this country. Look at the difference with people that came illegally. Look at the difference with no, dude. Work on yourself. Make yourself better. Stop trying to be Mr. Virtuous good man. I'm gonna help the whole world, because you're making it worse. You're making it worse. Nobody needs your help. Nobody needs welfare. Black people don't need your help. They're not worse than you. Black people or minorities or whoever or women or nobody needs your help in life. They're very fine with their lives and they'll do just fine. Nobody needs your dumb ass retard help. Really, you're making things worse. Stop worrying about these other people. Let them live their lives and stop making their lives worse with welfare and bullshit.
There was, me and you both, as I mentioned, have gotten a bunch of heat for not like immediately jumping to these conspiracy theories. Although, like, as I've said the whole time, I'm like, I'm open to it. Like, show me what you got. I do though think, and I've talked about this a bit on my show, I know you have on yours as well, I do think that the story of Charlie Kirk, though, and his relationship with Israel is really interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so aside from the conspiracy stuff, and I guess that my friend Candace, who your dear friend too,
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
She just last night released evidently some screenshots of a group chat where Charlie had said, you know, he was very frustrated with a Jewish donor who I guess had pulled some money from him. And he had said something about like, I'm going to not be able to be a Israel supporter anymore. Certainly doesn't tell you anything pointing to his murder. But it does certainly show you that, like, if that's true, and I'm assuming Candace, like, isn't posting a screenshot that's made up. I think Candace has more integrity than that. So if that's true, man, Josh Hammer and these guys have been being really dishonest about what really happened with Charlie Kirk. And I will tell you this story. I don't know if you've heard this before. I apologize to the fans because I have told them this before. But so my only experience where I debated Josh Hammer twice, I think I was telling you this outside and then we got distracted. But so the second time I debated him is at this Charlie Kirk event. And the whole time Charlie Kirk was just like, look, I really want to keep this civil and not be a mudslinging thing. And I go, absolutely, no problem. I think I'm very much like you. In that sense, I think we're very similar, that we're both kind of guys who actually really do care about the ideas and the issues. And if you approach us with like, let's debate these, it will 100% of the time be a substantive conversation. However, if you want to be vicious,
Yes.
like we're also okay with playing that game. Like, and you're like, I will be more.
So you're gay? I didn't know you were gay. How did you become gay?
Vicious than you. I mean, maybe not you, but just about everybody else. You're not going to, you know, and like, maybe I should be a little more mature than that at this age, but that is how I am. So I went sure, no problem. So we go in the back. We're in like the green room. So me and Charlie and his I'm blanking on his name, but his guy, who's the guy on his show now, who's kind of like his right-hand man.
Andrew Colvin?
Yes, I believe that was him. So it was the three of us, and we talked for a while, and then Josh Hammer came in. And we're just talking, you know, everybody's just being friendly and talking. We were kind of talking about every issue except Israel, you know, because like we're about to go debate that. So we were talking about immigration and started talking about family stuff at one point, just like everyone having a nice conversation. And Charlie, you know, and there's like, okay, we're going to go have this debate. And
no, being gay doesn't make you beta, in my opinion. Thinking that paying taxes to welfare and using welfare, thinking welfare is going to help people is gay, is beta, in my opinion.
And
that's beta. Let people and
I was not
not letting people just be who they are and live their life and make it on their own, and allowing them to have the struggle of life to actually learn and grow on their own. That's beta. That's beta.
Not sure what I was walking into there. Like it was
you're in the total beta mentality. You got completely indoctrinated by the left.
very, very interesting because like half the crowd might have been like your people. I mean, like it was at a Charlie Kirk event. It was striking that it was like, I mean, or it's just like my people. But I came out. The first thing Charlie says when I come out onto stage, is he introduces me and he goes, "Oh, we got a lot of Dave Smith fans here." Like he was kind of surprised that like half the crowd was thrilled to see me there. And then like 20% of them hated my fucking guts, but it was 20% to half. Like it was clearly the majority was because it's young people, man, and that's where they are right now. But so Josh Hammer goes out there after this, and he has the first opening. And the final thing he says in his opening is that he's disgusted to be sharing a stage with me. And I just thought there was something about that I was like, what a fucking snake you are. If it was the last communication I ever had with Charlie Kirk was me texting him, what a fucking snake that guy was after all that. And then Charlie just said something diplomatic back. He was like, it was aggressive or something like that. But I just thought on like a dude level, and I guess maybe this is part of the reason why me and you always kind of had like a mutual respect and liked each other. There's just something where you're like, who does that?
Yeah.
Like who the fuck does that? Like you're so comfortable being duplicitous that you'd sit down. Like if I was about to go on a show with you right now and do this and be like, I'm disgusted that you're across the table, I wouldn't have had that.
Sam, I'm speaking more to welfare that's paid to single moms and things like that.
20 minutes of nice chit chat with you outside. It would have been like, no, we're doing it like that. So anyway,
and minorities and DEI programs and all those different kinds of ways that people think that they're going to help people that they think are not as good as them.
I say all of that to just say I don't trust that guy one little bit. I'm curious, what do you make of the new revelations or this dynamic with Charlie Kirk? It's a weird spot for you to be in, being such a rival and an antagonist of a person, and then they're killed in this horrible way. And so it's a weird spot. But what are your thoughts on this latest?
Well, I agree with how you said it.
Exactly what Random says. Single moms, a bunch of baby daddies, popping out kids, trying to get more welfare. All you do is allow people to be super careless with their lives and be happy to kick out men that could actually help them with their lives or whatever the case is. Get rid of their baby daddies for no reason and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's any good. And maybe you can listen to some Jesse Lee Peterson help you understand that.
Which is, look, I mean, if someone other than Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, I'd, of course, be very interested in that, but I just don't see evidence for that. And people are trying to, it's like anything. In hindsight, you can look at every person's reaction in the crowd and say they're a decoy or an operative, whatever.
Tamara said it well herself right there. Look at that. Tamara says it right here. Where'd it go? I just went past it. Holy cow. A woman online bragging about getting over $4,100 in EBT this month with a couple kids is a disgusting waste of our taxes. Yeah. Women just go and get knocked up. They know they're going to get money for having a kid, and then they turn around and tell the baby daddy, I don't need no man. And now the government's raising her and her kids. And then the kids grow up, and then the kids literally grow up with no dad in the house, and they grow up with a mom that's on welfare. maybe has a job, maybe doesn't. But they learn what they shouldn't be learning, and they grow up to be failures. Unfortunately, it's the biggest tell if someone's going to be successful or not. Are you being raised by no father in the home? Are you being raised by someone that's living off welfare? Well, congratulations, you're way more highly to be not successful.
There's really nothing hard or conclusive that proves anything other than that happened yet. And I'm open to possibilities. What is interesting, but a different conversation, maybe related, is the Israel thing. And I think very clearly, as you and Tucker and Candace and others have, and Max Blumenthal have said, there's ample evidence that at the minimum,
I can't wait to read this book to learn all about this kind of stuff. I'm about to start this book. Actually, I just got this. I think I'm going to start this right after this live stream. Look at this. Look at this. This is a awesome book. I'm going to start this book soon. I got the hardcover. So we're gonna jump into this bad boy and see what's up. I also got this book, but that I'm gonna read later. It's a little thicker. It's a little bigger, and this one I'm gonna read later. So, boom, boom, boom. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's do this.
there was something dynamic there. He was a pro-Israel guy for many years. Now, seems like that was in flux, and a lot of the evidence has kind of been knocked out. This Bill Ackman retreat, you know, Bill Ackman produced the texts and Charlie arranged the whole thing. And it was a forum where I'm sure disagreement was expressed, but it showed generally they were still aligned. More interesting was his interview with Megyn Kelly.
Yeah.
Where clearly he platformed Tucker and you, and it seemed that supporting Israel was in contention, which they hate that that's even on the table, because it matters how you set the table. It doesn't necessarily even matter what your position is, but they don't want that to be up for debate. Do we support Israel? Not a question they want people to ask.
Well, especially when you're losing the debate.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that doesn't help either.
Yeah, especially when you get booed and, you know, killed in the debate. They don't.
Wealth of Nations, I have not. You think I should read that after this book? After Discrimination Disparities?
I don't like that either. And so even that, they were really pushing back on Charlie, threatening, I guess the new revelation is they took the money. They took the $2 million. It's a pretty big organization, but that's not a negligible chunk of change for Charlie and Turning Point USA. And he goes in the group chat, and assuming, like you said, that it's authentic, you know, that is, I think, the most stark thing we've heard from him on the record, where he says, I have to leave the Israel camp. And I would say that's even different than what he said on Megyn Kelly. Because on Megyn Kelly, he said, oh, you're going to call me an anti-Semite? He sort of stopped himself. He said, well, you're going to lose me. That's what he was going towards.
Yeah, and then
you're not going to lose me. He goes, but I'm going to be deflated.
Is Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith?
In that text, he says, I'm out. And I would characterize that as I was his rival, and I'm very cynical about him. He was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. He was really in the middle because, like you said, it's young people. They are Israel critical, and he had to go and defend the bullshit to them at the campus, in the arena, in the pit. You know, so it's easy for them in the ivory tower to say, yeah, we love Israel still. He's actually having to get the shit. And 100 Groypers on the line saying, why do you still love Israel? And I think that he recognized it became a liability and started to try and accommodate everybody, Tucker and the other side, Candace and the other side, the Groypers, so to speak, or the Dave Smith people and the other side. And the other side wasn't having it. They said, you better get the fucking line or we're pulling the plug. And I think he defiantly said, I will not be bullied. I thought it would have been interesting to see where that would have went, but sadly we'll never know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I've always, you know, I kind of took... I took what he was saying in that thread like a little differently than I guess some people did. Like I always thought the dynamic with Charlie Kirk was kind of that it was like, look, he's the guy who has to keep the young people on board. And he's by definition, he has to be a big tent guy because he's trying to win. You know, he's in a different game than me and you are in. You know, like it's a whole different thing to be like, like we're in the business of telling the truth as we see it. We're in the business of breaking down the ideas and how we view them. And as you said, at times, even like
I just ordered a Wealth of Nations hardcover, and it looks sweet. And Miss Medication is going to kill me for ordering all these. I've ordered 1 million books already. She just brought me more food. Is this protein? It's beef. Oh, dang. She just made me bone marrow, bro. Guys, she just made me bone marrow. Oh, I love bone marrow. This is done? I haven't. I want to still work on that. This medication, we gave me some protein after the gym. That was good. I took it to the gym. It worked out good. By the way, I was reading at the gym, guys, real quick, if you want to see that. This is, I don't know how, I don't even know how I came up with this, but I started reading at the gym. And it works. And I can't even pull it up now. I can't even find it now. Where is it at? I don't know where it is. That's okay. Notifications. Wow, dude, this is nuts. Okay.
Stretching the Overton window and maybe.
But I just bought the hardcover book. That'll be a good one. I'm looking forward. It's a cool looking book, by the way. This hardcover for $25 is pretty awesome, dude. Look at this thing. Let me see if I can. Look at this. Look at this thing. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Maybe even accepting that, like, I'm going to be speaking to the remnant here. I'm going to be speaking to one group of people, but hopefully this group will move the broader conversation. A very different thing to be doing a get out the vote campaign. You need everybody involved. And I think that I think Josh Hammer is not lying when he says he was doing everything to keep you out. Like that was the goal, is like, we are going to cut the line here. But just with the new dynamics of where politics is now in this real, like a revolution in media that me and you have both been living through and being, active participants in, it was like, okay, but you're big enough at this point that, like, okay, cutting Nick Fuentes out and then everything else is a big tent. Okay, you maybe could pull that off. But you're asking Tucker and Megyn Kelly too? Right. And I think Charlie just realized the tent now is like, there's no way this works. And so I almost took it when he was saying, I have to do this, as going, I'm going to have no other choice to keep turning. And of course, this is the rock and the hard place, right? Because you couldn't be anti-Israel and run an organization like Turning Points, but also you couldn't be pro-Israel and run an organization like Turning Points anymore, because you need the kids and you need the donors. And so there's this, and I think that, it did seem that essentially, like, because I want to talk about Trump a little bit too, and J.D. Vance. I'd like to talk about the kind of future of the Republicans a bit. But it is just this past weekend, we lived through like a real interesting little moment where Donald Trump, in one more example where he's clearly frustrated with Netanyahu, and goes and finally says it, after all this time, finally says Israel must stop bombing Gaza immediately. Now, I don't know. I know they're claiming, because I was like reading up the latest of this stuff. Like Dave DeCamp is always the best guy to read for what the latest, news on the ground is. And they're claiming they've stopped some of the bombings, but like there was a lot of offensives going on over the weekend. They killed something like 70 Palestinians on Saturday and then 40 on Sunday or something like that. And so you're like, okay, but I think I was saying this on my last episode. I think in a way, the more revealing thing is that, first of all, we likely assume Israel's just going to continue doing what they're doing. But even forget that, we know for a fact that even if they did, nothing would change. Even if Donald Trump says, you must stop doing this now, nothing will change if they continue to do it. And that, to me, is so obviously indefensible. That, like, you have a country who is propping up another country, and that this country's commander-in-chief has zero influence over telling them to stop what they're doing. They don't even feel, there was, I'm blanking on who it was, but it was someone high up in the government who said, well, we have no ceasefire in place. Essentially meaning, we could keep doing this. We have not made a deal yet. And it's like, yeah, but the president of the United States told you to stop, and you're dependent on him. So stop. So that's an outrage. All right, guys, let's take a moment and thank our sponsor for today's show, which you are actually opposite in terms of, I think you voted.
Maybe it would be different this time. And like you said, you articulated the reasons why. They tried to kill him, they impeached him, they charged him. So the question was, is it going to be different this time? Did he learn? Is there going to be better people? And I get that. So I didn't begrudge people that did vote for him, but there were signs. Nikki Haley endorsed him, and he said we were going to go to war with Iran, basically. He said they were going to bring in the H-1Bs and all this stuff. And, and then they appointed the cabinet within 3 weeks. Rubio for Secretary of State. And I guess the interesting thing I have to say beyond what is obvious, which is that it's kind of crashing and burning, is I look at a guy like Kurt Mills, Kurt Mills at AmCon, and, he seems like he's a good guy. He's 100% on board, maybe more with you than me, but he knows relevant facts. And I remember watching him during the negotiation between Trump and, or I should say, Witkoff and Araghchi or whoever it was on the Iranian side. And he would go on Steve Bannon every week and say, any day now, they're going to make a deal and, Netanyahu's going to be put in his place. And I'm thinking, have you ever seen anything in history? It never goes that way. And it never goes that way because, like you said before, it's sort of axiomatic. Trump is not willing to shut them down. He's just not willing to resist them or go there. He doesn't care enough, or whatever the reason is. It's hard to know what's in his heart or in his mind. He won't do it. And then, I think it was 3 days before we went to war, he goes, it's not on radar that Trump is going to attack Iran. That's not on radar. It's buddy, read the tea leaves. Of course he's going to go and bomb Iran. So, and I kind of get where you're coming from about the Pompeo. I was even skeptical about the Pompeo thing because I said they got a list of these people they're going to put in, and that's why I'm a big believer in this. It's not even people say, "Are you going to vote for a Democrat?" We got to think beyond that. To me, it's just about rejection. They set the table, and you can't really choose what's on the table, but you could choose whether to eat or not, whether you're going to play the game. And so my bigger idea is just reject. And I like what you said. It encapsulates it. It's bullshit. No, thank you. You're promising stuff you're not going to deliver. When you put the stuff out there, the big beautiful bill, $150 billion for border enforcement, they're not deporting even 1,000 people a day. It's nothing. And so I just look at these guys like Dan Caldwell crying on Tucker, at Kurt Mills, all that kind of stuff. People saying, we're going to hold their feet to the fire. We're going to pressure them. And I'm like, aren't you tired? We did that already. We did that in the first term. Because I was kind of in that place in the first term where it's we're going to control the personnel. We're going to do this. And I knew people in the admin. I knew people on the campaign that didn't get hired because they were on the campaign, because the people in the admin were from the Rubio campaign or the Bush campaign. And it's we just need something that at the end of the day is what we want, not a compromise. I know it's not how politics works, but we just need something that is promising and intends on delivering what we really care about. And Trump was never that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's it's a shame in a way. A friend of mine, Scott Horton, always says the country needed Ron Paul and we got Donald Trump, which is kind of how I see it. Maybe you would say more like Pat Buchanan or someone like that. But I think both of us would take either of those options if they were on the table. But it is, and I do think I thought the Epstein one was a particular. It's interesting how much that really was devastating for Donald Trump. And it was more than just the Epstein story. I think it was what that symbolized, that it was right at the heart of his political raison d'etre, which was draining the swamp.
Right.
And it was come on, man, what's a better example of the swamp than this? Oh, we won't touch that? Okay. All right, then. So I guess we know how serious we are about this. And I got to say, I see nothing promising about J.D. Vance. I think my view of it seems to be that I do think that he's maybe kind of sympathetic to you know, my foreign policy views, and I think that he does seem to err more on that side, but I just don't think he has anywhere near the stones to like stand up to anyone. I think he wants to be president more than he wants to care about that, and that right there is that's the deal breaker then. Okay then, so you're not, and again, to your point, I think, which I would just maybe modify, and I think you probably agree with this too, it's like, I'm not even against compromise, but there's got to be a compromise. There's got to be like a reasonable compromise. Like I am willing to compromise on a few things, but the compromise can't be I have to bend over and grab my ankles. Like that's not not a reasonable compromise that I'm trying to sign up to. So it's like I just don't, and I wonder, because, you know, like there's always two ways to look at this. And like the conventional political thinking, the Charlie Kirk thinking would be like, well, any dissent
What's up, Scott Norris?
Here only helps the Democrats, right? So if we're not all rallying around them, then we get the Democrats who are the worst, you know, biggest threat. But of course, I think our rejoinder to that would be that, like, well, no, not releasing the Epstein files is what gives and when I say file, you know, just not getting to the bottom of it. That's what gives them that. And what is J.D. Vance going to run on? I mean, how is he going to capture that energy that Donald Trump had of, we're furious with this system. The system is so corrupt and so dishonest and so such a betrayal to every American that we want someone to go in there and be a wrecking ball against them. How is J.D. Vance possibly going to capture that energy? When there's nobody's believing it anymore.
Well, and with Trump, I feel like a lot of people just forgot really what he was. There were a lot, because I feel like not a lot of people actually voted for him in 2016 that are around now. And you and I know, because we both, I mean, you're around longer than me, but we were both around then. And I feel like there's a lot of young people and maybe even like big supporters of Trump now that weren't really with him in 16. And so what I'm trying to say is, for a lot of people to have amnesia, they think that he's a Republican. He's a conservative, like, because that's really what he's become. That is what he was in 20. That's what he was in 24. He's against the radical left. He's against the Democrats. But in 16, he started out fighting the Republican establishment. And he really ran as like an independent.
Exactly, almost Sam Bat Channel, Sam Bat. Sam Bat Time, Sam Bat Channel, exactly.
Independent. And I always go back to the proposition of Trump. This is my basis for not voting for him last year, which is not
W. Linda, awesome, Linda Levitt.
I'm better than the Democrats, which is the minimum. You're a Republican. Well, he's better than Kamala. Okay, isn't that a given? Like, shouldn't you be? It's not that he's a conservative or anything like that. He said, the system is rigged and it's broken. I will break it because I'm rich. I'm so rich, I don't need to take their money. And if I don't have to take their money, I can actually deliver real change because I don't have to worry about upsetting them. That, in a nutshell, was the premise. And that was his appeal. He would go up on the stage and, like, you watch this now and you're like, where's this guy? That famous clip where he goes, they're booing him, and he goes, that's all donors in the audience. So I don't want their money. I don't need their money. And everyone resonated, right, left, and center, said, yeah, fuck the system. That's true. They're bought off. That's why nothing ever changes. He's rich. They can't buy him. That was the idea. Obviously wasn't true. Then now in 24, when he got 200 billion or 200 million from Tim Mellon and from Elon Musk and Ken Griffin and Mark Andreessen, the usual suspects. And with J.D. Vance, like you said, it's just even worse. It's disgusting that anyone's even considering voting for him, to me, because it's like, at least Trump had kind of a claim to be that guy because he was this like bombastic billionaire from the private sector. Vance is like your prototypical political artifact, like a creation in a lab, like fake career, fake name, fake book, patrons in the CIA, like. He's a nerd. He's not even really that conservative, you know, the fake conversion. Maybe he's a real convert, but it seems too convenient. Like, he's everything that Trump ran against. He's like Jeb Bush. He was calling Trump a Nazi and voted for McMullen, and it was a never Trumper. So, and I'm just unloading my case against him, but it's like they could not be more different. So to your point, how are you going to sell that? I don't know how any MAGA person is buying it, but I think they will.
And there's another thing where, like, you know, the vice presidency, you know, the role, it's an interesting job because there's really not a job exactly, but it makes you kind of like, oh, you're the next in line. But if you just remove that for a second, who would have ever thought J.D. Vance could carry a national election? J.D. Vance is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the most famous human being who's ever lived, who's bombastic and charismatic and just like owns a room like no other. Like really is like as a unique gift in this way. Unfortunately, all of these gifts are only for like marketing and promotion and running for that. It's not like he has no governing, ability at all. But like J.D. Vance doesn't have that. He doesn't have that factor, the Hitler aura, as you would describe it. You know what I mean? But like so it's you're just looking at this and you go, so look, if you're telling me that like the radical left Democrats are the
thanks, State Line. Yeah, guys, if you want to join the Discord, feel free to hit it up. We got a great Discord. We talk a lot off stream. So if you want to get more involved, feel free to do that, and we share good links and videos, and a lot of the stuff that I play comes from you guys.
Real threat, which granted they are. It's like it seems like we're staring at them having a chance. Now, I guess the only thing, and again, this is an interesting dynamic, one that I've never really seen before in my lifetime.
Their show.
I just want to hear Nick, to be honest.
Oh, where I think some like ghetto black woman said like "fuck F the Jews" and we love it. And it went like super viral, and like
I think I saw this clip.
Usual Suspects seized up on that, and it's like, and I didn't say anything to him privately, but you could see where that's going to go in very short order, where there's no.
Yes, and there's also a link on my YouTube channel homepage. So if anybody is trying to find the Discord another time later on, and you're wondering where it's at, there's a link on my YouTube channel homepage to the Discord.
No shortage of stuff like that you can find, that certain people are putting out there on a daily basis. And it's not measured. It's not nuanced. There's no point. It's just vulgar. It's vulgar. It is hateful. It definitely probably crosses a line. It doesn't like serve the conversation. Like it's one thing to say Jewish identity, blah, blah, blah. It's another to say F these people. Like that's different. And I 100% believe there's going to be another censorship push, and they're going to use shit like that to justify it. So that's why.
In the chat, Dome Romer says, Medi, did you hear Alabama made reverse cowgirl illegal? How dare they, bro?
I've really tried, and I'm not the most disciplined person, but I've really been trying this year to be more restrained and measured. And that, and the audience, they perceive everything as cucking. If you're not sprinting towards the most vulgar, extreme, fanatical, they say that you got the call. But it's so important because there is a window of opportunity here. And you and I have been around long enough to recognize that because you're right. It was a different country in 2015, completely different country. And we don't want to squander that. But then again, you wonder how much of it is even in our control. Will they do it anyway?
No, I think that's right.
We should control what we can control.
No, I think that's right. And I think that, it's something for us to even, always keep in mind too, because it's hard, like when you start growing, I know you've, I'm sure, experienced this, right? But it's like like when you have a show and it's getting like 10,000 views a show, you can kind of know your audience. You're like, I know, like.
Seems like they almost know every permutation of how things are going to end up. And now it's like,
awesome, Linda. Love you too, Linda.
So Mark Zuckerberg decided free speech is good now? Like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that there is an ulterior motive. And I think that I'm always just in favor of doing the thing that's unpredictable. Because if to the extent that they have power, it's because they can predict what will happen next or how we'll behave. And so that's why I try to just surprise people and do the thing they're not expecting me to do. Like, if they bring me back on Twitter and maybe there's an angle, it's because they're expecting me to be what they think I am, which is a troll or a hater or whatever. So maybe walk it back or be restrained or, and I think that we really need to be intentional and cautious. Like after Charlie died, I called up a lot of people that I know that are like influencers. And I was like, we just really need to be careful to not step into a trap, because it seems like whenever there's a crisis, and you never think it's going to happen, but when there's a crisis, you get kind of riled up and you act in ways that are not smart, and by you, I mean anyone does, me, you, anyone, because emotions are high, rationality goes out the window, and it's easy to forget all the hard-fought lessons we've learned over the years that have, produced bad results for us. So, with all the violence, chaos, the uncertainty, unprecedented nature of where we are, we just have to be extremely cautious, vigilant, intentional about what we're doing, what we're saying. It just can't be sloppy. You know, because if we're sloppy, the thing about Netanyahu and them is they are really smart and they are you think they don't know? They know. Like you said, they know astutely. Even to the extent that Matt Walsh says, let them kill each other. That's a brilliant innovation because they knew the pro-Israel thing was losing. And you think they're just going to keep pressing that button until it doesn't work anymore. No, they switched up quick and said, we can't get him to support. We'll get him to say this line about, well, we don't want Muslims here. They reinvent all the time. So the game is not over. That's what people need to keep in mind. You run through the finish line, you run through first base. It isn't over. And I like what you said. They always have something up their sleeve. So you can't presume that we're running away with it. We get careless, sloppy, do a victory celebration. It's still in flux.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about this because I think this is a topic that I find very fascinating, and I think you're kind of like uniquely like a perfect example of this. But so 2019, you got your YouTube channel taken, and then was that around the same time you got kicked off everything else, or was it? Like Twitter, like when did you get kicked off of that? I know you ultimately got let back on, but like there was a period where you were gone.
I was banned from YouTube in February 2020 and then Twitter in July 21.
Okay. All right. So there's a real interesting dynamic to me. And I watched this happen with people who I know, people I'm friendly with. Like I knew Gavin McInnes, a good example of somebody who got canceled off everything and really hurt him, really sidelined him. Stefan Molyneux. Kicked off everything, really sidelined him. Like it's almost like they're not in the conversation anymore, at least the way that they were. Right. Milo, a great example of that, where he was really seemed like he was about to break through to mainstream success, and they squashed that. And somewhere along the years, it seemed like that started backfiring. I thought Andrew Tate, was an interesting example. I had never heard of Andrew Tate until he got canceled from everything, and then all of a sudden it was just like dominating the algorithm, and he was everywhere. And I think you were one of those guys too. So like even like you got back on Twitter, and I'm sure that helped, but you were already kind of surging before, I think, if I've got that correct. And so was there a period? So you're out there in the unpersoned world, and was there a time where you were like, oh, this is actually working here in this world? And like, what were you streaming on?
I was on Cozy TV, which is my own site.
Oh, you just made your own thing. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I was like, I haven't heard of that. But so that was, and did you start getting numbers there?
No, I was languishing. It was tough. I mean, the thing about deplatforming is it works. When I got banned from everything, I was not getting great numbers. It was when I got back on Rumble that I got on Rumble in the first place.
Rumble seems like it was a big deal in the set because they were the first one who really started doing numbers.
Yes. Yeah, and it was a live streaming platform. For a period I was banned from all live streaming platforms from roughly 21 until Rumble I think opened up live streaming to everybody, which maybe was like 2023, right around there. That was the wilderness. I literally could not stream my show unless I made a website, which is very costly and time consuming. And, what helped was being prolific and having like a core of supporters.
Yeah.
I do a show every day. There's a parasocial relationship. It's a cult-like following. But a lot of these guys, they either stop making content like Molyneux, they upload it to a platform that doesn't work. Like BitChute was pretty rough in the early days. And Gavin put all his stuff behind a paywall. And that's just, in my opinion, a bad business model. Because it's like you got to give out the free samples to get people to walk through the door.
Right.
And when it's to pay to get in, you don't get the conversion.
You don't get new listeners. Yeah.
Exactly. So I had a strategy where I said, I'm going to take a financial hit. Like I made no money for 2 years, but I knew it's like if I keep people coming through the door, eventually things will change, or I can still make a little money. If it's free and if it's good.
I didn't know this part. This is great. Love to hear this.
Good. And that's how I was able to just kind of like survive, but I'm still dependent on platform access.
Yeah, but it does. Okay, fair enough. But it does just seem like, like whatever, if the goal was to shut you up, well, that certainly didn't work out very well for them. And there does seem, I think there's just something interesting about the fact that it seems, at least like we were just saying, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it seems at least for the time being that the cancel thing just stopped working and actually started like kind of injecting more life into the people who were getting canceled. Like I thought, like obviously you're saying these years were rough, but on net, I think you may have benefited from that. And maybe I'm wrong, because maybe if you were just on YouTube and Twitter this whole time, you lost out on a lot from that. So like maybe I'm wrong about that, but at the very least, it seems to have not worked or something like that. And I thought Andrew Tate and Alex Jones too were like kind of examples of that, where it was just like, that's not, you didn't remove them from the conversation. They're more, like all three of you guys are more present than ever, whereas some of those other guys just like never kind of got back to where they were. I guess Gavin is back on Twitter now, I think. He
just last week, I think. Yeah, to me, it's more, in my opinion, a function of your strategy and just kind of, it seems that the people that have survived the longest are the people with a show. Only because if you have a show, people know when to tune in. It is every day. You know, like Alex Jones does 3 hours every day. And he's on radio, which really helps, because I don't think he ever got censored from there. But I was never a believer in the Streisand effect thing, because it's like, I can't process credit cards for my business. There's like, there's no Streisand effect where you can't make money, you can't have a bank account, you know, and all that stuff. So
yeah, people don't realize, but he got debanked. Nick Fuentes literally they literally removed his ability to have a bank account. It's pretty wild. So on top of deplatforming him or taking him off, removing his accounts from Twitter and YouTube and all that, they literally debanked him. Yeah, he could not open a bank account.
So it really, in my opinion, was Trump got banned from everything. And I think venture capital and private equity, they do what they do best, and they looked at him like an undervalued asset. And they came in and said, this guy's banned from everything. We can actually upset Silicon Valley and the market there if we make censorship-proof Rumble. It's like, if I'm banned on Twitter, no one's going to build a new Twitter around me. But if Trump is banned on Twitter, you actually can build a Rumble, a True Social around him. And in a way, that explains to me 2024, because that is who came in. Little tech, you know, it's Andreessen Horowitz, it's the Teal Club, it's Elon Musk. He was kind of like their guy, commercially and politically. And then I think the rising tide lifted all the boats. That's kind of how I interpret it, because we were headed towards like total annihilation of free speech. Like, my listener base shrunk dramatically when I was in the wilderness.
Yeah, wasn't it wild seeing like everybody flip out about the FCC chairman threatening Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah,
and there's free speech. Free speech is finally at risk in America after like the last 5 years. And you're like, really? Oh, really? Was this the one? Which, by the way, was a stupid thing for the FCC chair to say that. Totally, like, talk about seizing defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yes.
Like, you're just, okay, now you handed them a talking point. This guy is dying in the wilderness, you know? This is a couple other things I want to talk about. I want to talk about censorship.
Yeah, there was no reason for the FCC to say what he said. I think it was stupid. I agree with that. Whenever even any lefty says the FCC chair shouldn't have said that, I agree. But I also agree that Jimmy Kimmel getting canceled because of Trump is not true. But the FCC chair didn't have to say that. Jimmy Kimmel was already a loser. He was already done. He didn't have to do that. Gangster Buffy, I'm reading the chat. Yeah, I agreed. Dude, Jimmy Kimmel was already done. He was already done, bro. You didn't have to say a word, bro.
And then I want to hit like Tucker, Candace, and some of that stuff. And but so there you know, there's just been a lot of questions that are raised over the censorship stuff. And like I said, there's some areas that I struggle with myself, like how exactly. I think I kind of landed about where you were on the Charlie Kirk thing. Like, look, like the government shouldn't be involved. They're not technically inciting violence, but like there really should be consequences for this. There should be some type of social consequences. And in fact, I'm a big believer in social consequences. But what do you think, like, in terms of, you know, I think I heard you say something like, look, the right's in power now. When the left gets back in power, they're going to be censoring people. Mm-hmm. So maybe we should be doing things like that now. But like, what do you mean by that? Or what, like, do you think the FCC chair, I mean, you seem to agree with me when I said that, but like, should the FCC chairman be threatening Jimmy Kimmel and people like that?
No, I think that was just tactically dumb.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I do believe that We are in like a war, basically. We are in a race. And we know that because, like you said, under Biden,
this turned out to be a way more interesting conversation than I thought it would.
like they were engaging in censorship. It was coming from the press office. It was coming from, I don't know how many departments and agencies, but it was quite a few of them that they were giving orders. Take this account, that post, take that down, the OSHA stuff. And they wasted no time in doing that. Like Biden got in and it was just a whirlwind of J6, censorship, everything you can think of, a naked power grab. And I do believe that if Trump leaves office and a Democrat comes in, they're going to do it again. And so I'm a big believer that the right wing needs to really disempower the left institutionally. Like if they were doing it under a different pretense, I would like what they're doing at Harvard and Columbia. The problem is they're doing it.
It's not on behalf of America.
Right.
Yeah.
For some other reason. But it's like, yeah, like we should work to disorganize the left. We should work to go after their radicals like Antifa. We should put the pressure on them hard. We should put the pressure on the far left. We should put the pressure on their funding mechanisms, their stuff, because if we lose, they will do it to us indiscriminately. They have no qualms about it, and they'll be more competent about it. And like, then they'll make the country the way they want it to be. So yeah, I'm a big believer in like, we should use the levers of power. I don't know about like censoring them on Twitter, let's say, but institutionally, yeah, we should be playing to win.
Yeah, you know, I said on my show, and this is, you know, from my particular strain of libertarianism or whatever, but I was like, I basically said the same thing as you. I was like, look, I don't view it as a free speech violation because like Jimmy Kimmel isn't a person anymore. Like you're part of the regime. Like once you there is, and I know it's a bit of a gray area of where you draw the line when someone. I'm not going to say, hey, you pay your taxes, therefore you're part of the regime. But like, no, when you just become what Jimmy Kimmel is, you're no longer a citizen expressing their views. It just tactically, it was such a blunder. The guy's already done. We're killing him already. Mm-hmm. So like, what do we even? Me and you get better numbers than these guys get. So like, why do we need to make them a free speech martyr? Like it was just like shit. But I do think that. And it's one of the great disappointments of the Trump administration is that, you know, for all that talk about like Project 2025 and how he's going to be like permanently, he's going to overthrow democracy and all of this. It's like, okay, well, that was no, but there should have been like this time, like conservative and right-wing America should have been like, hey, we have to do something that like dismantles their mechanism. And I do think like, you know, look, again, all of government's all of college is a government program. Mm-hmm. The whole thing's a government program. All of that. It's like, yeah, we should be shutting down as much of this stuff as we can. Just destroying it. So I don't really think, and maybe this is where me and you disagree, but I never believe that right-wingers are going to be able to capture and use these institutions. I think bureaucratic institutions are progressive by their very nature. They're egalitarian by their very nature. It's like, but you can smash a lot of it, you know, or at least attempt. I mean, maybe you get struck down by the courts, but like at least try. There seems to be no attempt to even be like, how do we make sure this doesn't happen to our guys next time? Right. And in fact, I think part of that's because Trump doesn't really even view them as his guys. Yeah. Like, you know, Donald Trump, I thought one of them, and you were there on January 6th, so curious to ask you a little bit about that. But I thought one of the most disgusting things I ever saw Donald Trump do was when he threw the January 6th guys under the bus. Yes. Like days after it, or maybe the day after it even. And okay, ultimately he pardoned them after letting them languish in prison for years. Okay, so you don't get like that much credit from me for that. But like, look, man, I never bought all the leftist claims about January 6th were always like hyperbolic insanity. You know, like it wasn't an insurrection, and Donald Trump didn't incite violence. But at the same time, if you're a leader and you told everybody that they just stole this election from me, like, and then you said you're going to go there, and then your people did what would be reasonable to do if the election was stolen from them, right? Like, it is not the claim, just like the Democrats were making the claim with Russia. It's like, well, then we should be nuking Moscow. Like, according to what you're saying, we should be at war with them now. Well, according to what you're saying, Donald Trump, you should storm the Capitol if that's the case. And so he kind of led his people into this. And then literally, because at the end of the day, it does seem that really what motivates Donald Trump is his own ego, his own greatness. And if they were like, oh, you're going to get impeached or removed, or you're going to get this if you don't go to, so he went, oh, okay, fine. And then threw his own people under the bus. I thought that was like disgusting.
Yeah, and he had the full power to pardon them in the first place.
Right there.
Could have done it. He had 3 weeks to do it, or 2 weeks, I guess is what it was. And yeah, at least for me, I was almost charged with conspiracy. They were considering charges against me. That was in the New York Times. And, you know, and other people obviously did go to jail. And I was there because Trump told me to be, you know, like Trump. And by that, I mean, I was going to be at the speech. I was not going to be at the Capitol building. The speech was at the Ellipse. Capitol was miles away. And Trump said, we are going to the Capitol to make our voices heard. I said, oh, well, Trump's going to be there. I guess it's cool. So I went there. And if I had been in jail and other people were, is that not his fault? He saw no responsibility. And that is kind of his MO. I mean, he throws a lot of people under the bus. He is, I think, motivated by vanity. And here's the problem with that. If he's not in it to win it, then he's activating the enemy with no intention of following through.
That's right.
He got in office. He's like, oh, I won. So it's not that serious for him. And he can pardon himself when this is all over. And he's rich, so he can go. But if the country turns upside down, we're all going to be paying the price. And so that was my big beef with him, among others, in 24, is like, look, you guys don't understand. He did not learn his lesson. He never does. He hasn't changed at all. If anything, he's just more tired and cares less. And as a consequence, it's going to be just as inefficient as the first term, in which case we shouldn't even bother. In which case we're better off not poking the bear. Let's just let Kamala catch a hot potato and forget about it, because he's going to start something he can't finish. That was kind of my problem.
Yeah, it's in a weird way, it's kind of true about the people who stormed the Capitol building too. Like, you're like, yo, I don't think you realize what you're doing. I know you think this is funny. Like, I know you think it's funny. Oh, you fart on Nancy Pelosi's desk? That's really funny. Hey, you know what government is? It's not your friend. You know what I mean? Like, these are the biggest, most powerful gangsters in all of the land. And like, they're going to crush you and lose no sleep over it. And, you know, I was, like I said before, like I voted for Trump in 24. I didn't vote for him in 2016, but I was rooting for, like, it couldn't help. But I mean, like, the 2016 election day coverage will forever go down as just like the greatest thing ever. Like the montages of MSNBC and the Young Turks and all this stuff was like, but I guess I'm friends with the Young Turks now because we're all against the genocide or whatever. But like at the time, it was just like so amazing. 2020, I wasn't even rooting for him because I really did feel exactly that. Especially, I was just so furious at him for the year that was 2020. I mean, like, talk about just like, my God, what a failure. Like, in the moment of your life, you were in the seat of power and failed so hard. And just, you know, instituted totalitarianism in the United States of America is like the craziest shit ever. And I did feel exactly like you felt, which if people can remember back, I mean, 2020 was such a crazy year with the mass riots in the streets and the censorship and the lockdowns and all of this. And I was just kind of like, what do we get for this?
Right.
Like it's okay. Like we're kicking a hornet's nest and without a plan associated with it, like for top marginal tax cuts or something like that. Like what is and it just seems like, which you get from Dick Cheney anyway, you know, like, so it did just feel like that. And I think that's a really wise observation that like, you never want to, you know, like it's the same way I feel about January 6th. Like, what are you doing? Are you overthrowing the U.S. government right now? Because if you are, you better fucking be prepared to do that, you know? Like, it is not wise to do that. Oh, you're just doing it with no strategy. Oh, we'll just take selfies inside. Like, okay, all right. I don't think you guys actually realize what you're dealing with. And I think particularly in the United States of America, where we have this kind of, you know, we're a very, very wealthy country, and we have an enormous, powerful government, the most powerful government in the history of the world. But generally speaking, like if you don't cross them, they're fairly polite to you. You know what I mean? Like they're not like, it's like, hey, you get your taxes in. Like, listen, we're taking half your money. You have that in on time to us. But as long as you do that within reason, you know, you can kind of, and people get very comfortable and kind of like are a bit removed from what the real nature of government is. And you don't understand that it's like, look, man, like John Brennan might seem fine when he's on TV, but you cross that motherfucker and he will kill you and not lose a wink of sleep over it. Like, these are people who will launch wars on false pretenses. These are people who will back both sides of a war and just let the killing happen, you know? And man, you really want to be careful about crossing them. Okay, so the January 6th stuff is where these accusations of you being a Fed have come from, which, you know, full transparency here, I do not believe that you're a Fed. I don't fucking know. Who the hell knows? Everybody, you're a Fed. Everyone's a Fed. Right. I don't know who's the Fed and who's not a Fed. But I know that this was something that, you know, Tucker had said, and I think you were very upset by this, and understandably so. I think that that's it's a particular type of accusation that is it's a very frustrating one, I think, in a way, because it's kind of like, oh, you're just everything you said is undermined now, right? Like I don't have to deal with anything, and I think that you know, anyway, I understand why that upset you a lot, but I think from what I've heard, a lot of this comes from the January 6th stuff, and the accusation is that you were encouraging people to go into the Capitol. So what's the deal with all that?
Well, it even goes back to something else, which is the Joe Kent story, which I brought up before, because, you know, I was at January 6th, and at January 6th, I got up there and I gave a speech. And in the speech, I gave speeches at all these events, by the way. I went to the Atlanta State Capitol, Harrisburg, Phoenix, Lansing, and even D.C. And I gave speeches at Governor's Mansion, state capitals in D.C. before. And J6, you know, we thought it was going to be the speech on the ellipse, and then we were going to maybe do something at the actual Capitol building, although I wasn't going to be there. But there were plans for there to be stages there. And, you know, so like I said, I went to the speech. Trump said, go to the thing. We went to the thing, and somebody said, you got to give a speech. So I said, okay, find me a megaphone. I get a megaphone. I jump up on a thing, and we're like 500 feet from the Capitol. We're not even near the building. We're like on the street next to the lawn. And in the speech, I said, well, we're taking the Capitol back, keep moving, take down the barriers. And then we left. You know, we didn't go in. I wasn't even close to the building. And this video had been out there for a long time. And people knew I was there and didn't get charged. I got my money frozen, although I wasn't public about that. I got on the no-fly list. I went public with that, went public with the money later. There was never an accusation until like about a year later. And then people started to create this story that, you know, that I was leading people in and I didn't get charged. Now, where it started with Tucker is with Joe Kent. Because now, like, 2 years later, I make potentially Joe Kent lose the election. And Joe Kent was a close friend of Tucker's. Joe Kent is in the CIA. And that is how we attacked him. We attacked him on that basis. And of course, it was in self-defense. He said that he disavowed me, condemns all my views, we're keeping you out. And I looked at him as very threatening because, like we talked about before, he's kind of boxing me out intentionally. So we made him lose. And it was a couple months after this is where I first got the inkling of it, Michelle Malkin, who's a good friend of mine.
I know Michelle. I've had her on the show before. She's great.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's married to a Jewish guy, so you can't be mad at her.
Look at that. Good woman.
But and he's great too, actually. He's pretty based himself. But so she communicates to me through a mutual friend that she gets this really weird call from Tucker. She says that Tucker never calls her. Sometimes she texts him and he'll give her a thumbs up, but they don't really talk. She says, but he calls her out of the blue asking about me and asking about Kanye. Did Nick make Kanye go crazy? Did Nick try to take Trump out at the Kanye dinner?
I don't think anyone can hold you responsible for that.
Yeah, you can blame me for a lot, but that's
no, this one rests squarely on the shoulders of Pete Davidson. And we all know that. We all know that. Get your family stolen by Pete Davidson, you're going to lash out at the world.
You're going to get radicalized. Yeah. But so he's calling her asking about all this stuff and about J6. And she said it was very strange. Like, it felt like he was reading from a script. He was asking these questions. And she just told me to be on alert. Then I get a call from Anya Parampil, the wife of Max Blumenthal at Gray Zone. They're doing a piece about me. And she asked me about the Capitol. And I tell her the story. I said, I was 500 feet away. I testified. I got subpoenaed by Congress. I said, I testified under oath. I did not talk to law enforcement. She publishes this 3-part hit piece about me saying that I'm basically what Tucker said, that I'm here to make America first look bad, that I'm a Fed, that I made Joe Kent lose. The only reason I made Joe Kent lose is because I'm a Fed trying to whatever. And so I do a big stream reviewing the hit piece and debunking basically the whole thing. Then I get a call from Bryson Gray, the MAGA rapper. Now he's a Christian rapper. He's working for a company called Influenceable, which they pay influencers to push social media campaigns. He goes, my wife just got a new campaign from Influenceable. They're paying people money to post the link to this article with the hashtag FedFuentes. And there's like a whole spreadsheet. It said, or a whole like readout. It said the campaign is fed Fuentes. Post the link to this article and say these things, and you get paid. And someone posted it. This like state representative in New York. I forget his name a long time ago, but he was the only one who had posted it. I put them on blast. Influenceable calls me up. Please stop talking about us. We will take it down. We promise. Everyone's trying to broker this big truce. Huh. That's how, because I was pro Tucker. I was a big fan up until that point. And I said, So clearly, because him and Blumenthal are tight, he was fishing because he knew Michelle for this story. Blumenthal's wife wrote it. And that was like a coordinated hit job in retaliation for their buddy, Joe Kent, who lost. And anyway, so that's kind of where the rivalry started. And by the way, I know for a fact that at a recent dinner, Tucker, even before he talked shit about me in July, he was pushing that script to anyone who would listen, to other e-celebrities, to students, saying, yeah, Nick is this gay kid, he's trans, and he's a fed, and he's here to make us look bad. So this was in private, and he was kind of suggesting that on his show, and then he explicitly said it this summer.
Well, I guess he implied it with me, because I heard people on Twitter saying this. So it was, like, which I think I don't remember exactly the details of this, but I think you had said something that pissed me off. Not that, whatever, it's water under the bridge, but I think you had said something that pissed me off, and so I just didn't respond to it. And just like the way people were coming at me was like a little disrespectful, so I was like, fuck you, I don't have to answer this. But he said when I was on the show something, like we were talking about Ray Epps, and then he was like, there's someone else who was on camera and he kind of put the words in my mouth. He went, as I'm sure you know. Yeah. And I did not even pick up on that until like people were showing me the clip of it. And I certainly never thought he was talking about you. And he never said anything to me about that. But then, of course, right, I did see with Candace where he did explicitly say it. And I think, I guess maybe the thing about it is that it does seem, just on the surface of it, and I'm not accusing you of being a Fed at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think you're a Fed. But I guess just on the surface of, if there's a video of you advocating people go into the Capitol and the way they were just getting everybody, and it does seem like, although you're obviously a lot bigger now than you were then, you still would have been a pretty nice scalp to be on their mantle. You know what I mean? Like, it would just be like, oh, wouldn't they go at you for that and try to find some charge or something like that? But is it the case that there's just nothing to charge you with, or what?
There was nothing to charge me with. I mean, they looked at charging me, but I didn't trespass. I wasn't violent. And
but wouldn't that be inciting something?
But my lawyer told me I'm protected by the First Amendment for that, because it wasn't like the language was such that it wouldn't be. And also, no one else got charged with incitement. The charges were trespassing, conspiracy, all things that didn't apply to me.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I think maybe, it's like, and I think maybe this is partially why you get that rap, which I think is unfair. It's unfair to call people feds, unless you really have fucking detailed, like, I have the evidence and I'm willing to show it. It's just like, it's an unfair accusation. I think, like, when Ray Epps, well, by the way, do you think he was a Fed?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm skeptical, but it's possible.
Yeah, I lean toward thinking he was. It's just the way the Democrats were defending him seemed so bizarre to me. But anyway.
That was a good discussion, guys. Random, go to bed, bro. Go do your thing. And I'm going to go to bed, too. That was good. We saw a couple videos on Nick Fuentes. What are you guys' thoughts? State Line, what do you think, bro? What do you guys think? I agree with a lot of what he says. But it's time, guys. Let's call it a night. We got another show for you guys tomorrow morning. I'm going to be on again in the morning, and we're looking at Friday morning, bro. I love Fridays. I can't wait. Guys, thanks for being on the show. Thank you for subscribing. Those of you subscribed, hell yeah. Thank you. I just saw another one. Thank you. I'll be on tomorrow morning, and we're going to have a good time. And I may go do another Too bad there's no Kings rallies, or else I'll go do that on Saturday morning or Saturday. But I'm going to do something on Saturday. I think I'm going to go out and about on the streets and do some interviews. So we'll see how that goes. Everybody in the chat, thank you guys. Linda, State Line, even Sam, bro. Boo Boo, Gangster Butterfly, Buffy, Trinity, Pat, dude, everybody, thank you guys. Random, Elmo, if you're still there. Everybody, love you guys. Thank you guys so much. We're going to call it a night, and we'll see you guys mañana. Hell yeah. Happy Thursday. We got Friday tomorrow, everybody. See you tomorrow.